Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly during perimenopause and onwards. We know that so many women start to struggle with hormonal symptoms like irritability, brain fog, night sweats, cravings, hot flashes, depression, anxiety, but also sudden weight gain that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere. You've got this tire around your belly and it feels like you just woke up one day and it was there. But you've changed nothing in your life. You're doing everything the same, and now you're just trying to cut your carbs, your calories, doing cardio, doing all the things that you used to do to try and lose weight, and it used to work, and now it just doesn't seem to work anymore. So now you're just frustrated, you're lost, you're overwhelmed, and you have no idea what to do next. But we know that now your body is inherently different than it was prior to perimenopause. So our mission is to teach women about how their bodies can change during this period of their life so you can finally reach your health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in your body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today, I want to talk about alcohol and fat loss and how that changes during perimenopause and menopause. It's summertime, and I don't know about you, but like going out to the lake or going out to the patio with some girlfriends, there's something different about having alcohol this time of year. It quenches your thirst different. It's more satisfying. Like, I don't know about what you guys like to drink, but I am huge for like fruity cocktails, mojitos. If there's any like white peach sangria, I'm done. That's so hard for me to say no to. And I'm not here to tell you not to drink alcohol. This episode is more just trying to explain to you what actually happens when we're drinking alcohol. How does it affect our goals? How does it affect our hormones, especially once we're going through perimenopause and menopause? Then you can make educated choices as to whether it's worth it or not for you, or if you do want to limit or you don't want to limit. It's completely up to you. I just want to provide you with the information so that you can make choices that best suit your lifestyle and are worth it for you. So again, I'm not here to tell you not to drink because that'd be super hypocritical, especially in summertime. I love me a good cocktail. So let's talk about what alcohol actually is. It'll give you 7 calories per 1 gram of alcohol. So you have like carbs and protein, which per 1 gram is going to give you 4 calories. Fat, 1 gram is going to give you 9 calories. Alcohol is going to give you 7 calories per 1 gram. However, it's very important to note that unlike your carbs, your protein, and your fat, alcohol doesn't provide you any nutritional value, none at all. In fact, it's going to be more detrimental in the long run, but that is something that you should be aware of. It's not calories you really like use for stuff. It doesn't provide nutritional value like our other macronutrients do. And it's very important to understand that alcohol can pass through all the cells in our body because it's not only water soluble, but it's fat soluble, and it can also cross the blood-brain barrier. So it can negatively affect literally all of the areas of our body. So what I want to talk about is low chronic alcohol consumption. So this isn't like someone who's got like a binge drinking problem or things like that. We're talking about low doses chronically over time. So this is typically classified as like 1 to 2 drinks a night, so 7 to 14 in a week. However, when we're looking at perimenopausal women, it's been shown that alcohol can actually have negative effects or the below effects that we're going to talk about in today's podcast episode with as little as 3 to 5 per week. And some people are going to be more sensitive than others, but perimenopausal women are typically going to see these things start happening to their body, or alcohol is going to impact our body with a lower dose. So it's only 3 to 5 drinks. I'm not talking about like a giant glass of wine. Like that's not one serving. Like we're actually talking about like legitimate measured out servings. So what we're going to cover is how it affects fluid retention, our hormone levels, our sleep quality, cancer risk, mood, gut health, inflammation, cortisol levels, and then ultimately our ability to lose weight, and how it changes our body composition. So the first thing I want to talk about is fluid retention. We all know that alcohol is a diuretic. You have 1 or 2 drinks and then you're running to the bathroom all the time because you have to go pee. So the next day when you weigh yourself on the scale, you are going to be lighter just because you are dehydrated. However, the next 2, 3, 4 days, your body is going to rebound to kind of try to compensate for that. So you are going to see like fluffiness, fluid retention, and the scale will increase. And again, it's not fat, but it's just your body's trying to adjust that fluid that you lost. So you're going to see everything go up for like the next 2, 3, 4 days. So if you're someone who's even drinking just like twice a week, if you're drinking like every 3 days and only a couple of drinks, you are going to see the scale go down one day and then be elevated for 3 to 4, and then down one day and then elevated for 3 to 4. So if you are drinking more consistently, it's just going to stay elevated. You're going to stay puffy. Your body's going to hold on to fluid retention. And this is something that we're already experiencing when our progesterone levels decrease as we're going through perimenopause and menopause. So it is very important to be aware that like this can like be a double whammy to fluid retention and affect your body's hormone levels and the scale and stuff like that. So you are going to struggle with weight loss this way, or seeing it on the scale anyways, if you are consuming alcohol. Again, it's just something to be aware of. I'm not telling you not to drink. It's just, here are the facts. So like one way to try and combat that obviously is to try and alternate your drinks. One alcoholic drink, 1 glass of water, 1 alcoholic drink, 1 glass of water, things like that, to try and like mitigate that as best as we can. The next thing I want to touch on is hormone levels. So alcohol consumption will actually decrease your testosterone and convert it to estrogen. So that's going to mess with your hormone balance, which is going to actually result in fat storage in the long run. So not only that, but it's also going to decrease your sex drive. And we all know that causes of estrogen dominance are going to be stress, some medications like birth control pills, for example, alcohol consumption, liver and detoxification issues, and as well as xenoestrogens, so BPAs. Those are what are commonly found in like plastic containers, for example. Alcohol is obviously going to take a toll on your liver and your body's ability to detox things properly, which we all know is not that great. We want to avoid that as best as we can. And then because you are going through perimenopause and menopause, estrogen levels are going to be low. Even if you still have estrogen dominance, your levels are typically still lower than where they would be prior to perimenopause. So some symptoms of high estrogen levels that can be caused from alcohol converting testosterone to estrogen are sugar cravings, belly fat accumulation, bloating, fluid retention, swelling and tenderness of the breasts, decreased sex drive, more severe PMS symptoms, headaches, moodiness, weight gain or weight loss resistance, memory and concentration issues, and even anxiety, and then night sweats. So if you're someone who's dealing with those kinds of things and you do feel like you're having more than like 3 to 5 drinks of alcohol in a week, this could actually be something that makes a big difference for you. Again, it totally depends if that's something that you want to attempt. But the effects that it has on our estrogen levels can really, really make it harder for us to lose weight. So it's just something to be aware of. The next one is sleep quality. So this is one that I hear very common from people, that it's like, oh, but if I have a nightcap or a glass of wine at nighttime, I fall asleep so much easier. Sure. But that's actually going to decrease your quality of sleep. So you won't actually go through REM sleep or deep sleep, which is actually super necessary for lowering our cortisol levels, which we all know has a ton of negative side effects if we can't bring that down. And as well, we're going to see a reduction in our ability to produce growth hormone, because growth hormone is produced and released when we're in REM sleep and deep sleep. So if we're not getting into those sleep ranges because of alcohol, we're going to see a decrease in our growth hormone. And this is something that's actually very, very important, because as we're going through perimenopause and menopause and we see our estrogen levels start to decline, we actually have a reduced ability to maintain and build muscle mass. What happens is our body becomes more catabolic, which means it wants to break down muscle for energy. So then if we are working out, for example, and breaking down muscle during our workouts, and we want to build muscle at nighttime, that's like when we get like resynthesized and all that kind of stuff. Recovery is super important. We're actually going to see that if we're having our alcohol and we're never getting that growth hormone to be stimulated, we have a much harder time building and repairing that muscle mass. So we're constantly breaking down our muscle mass, and then we're not getting our REM sleep, growth hormone doesn't increase, cortisol levels stay high. And that's just like, then we have those low estrogen levels. So it makes it so much harder to build and maintain muscle mass than it already is. It already is a struggle during perimenopause and menopause. So that's making it more challenging. And that's an issue, because we know that we don't want to look skinny fat. We want to look toned. We want to see some muscle definition. We want to look strong. We want to look fit. We can't do that if we're losing our muscle mass. So then you end up with that skinny fat look that everyone struggles with or wants to avoid, or they're like, oh, I feel like I'm like losing weight, but I don't look the way that I want. This is why. And the other thing that's really important about building and maintaining muscle mass is that it helps with our insulin sensitivity. So as we're going through perimenopause and menopause and estrogen goes down, we are naturally going to see an increase in our insulin resistance, which leads to blood sugar dysregulation, which leads to crashes and cravings. It's also going to potentially have us at a greater risk for developing type 2 diabetes, which we all want to avoid. So the more muscle mass that we have, the more area that we have for blood sugars to actually go and be used as opposed to being stored as fat. And again, it helps with our insulin sensitivity. So again, it's very, very, very important to try and maintain and build muscle mass. And alcohol is going to not only affect your sleep quality, but it's also going to make it harder to build and maintain muscle, which again, super important during perimenopause and menopause. As well, if our sleep quality isn't as good, our cortisol levels are going to be higher, which leads us to choosing not super great food options. Like you will see that we start to look for like chips and cupcakes and things like that, quick energy boosting foods that are higher in sugar and like highly processed and palatable because our body is looking for energy sources because we're just running on stress hormones at this point. So it makes you have poor food choices during the day, which again is going to like overall make it harder for us to lose weight because we have all these things kind of stacking against us. So if we can break the cycle somewhere and that be alcohol, that's a pretty easy fix. Okay, next one is cancer risk. And this is something that I'm just going to say, like, I am not a doctor. This is stuff we've like gotten from research and stuff like that as well. So take it with a grain of salt, but I think it is very important to discuss because just drinking one serving of 10 grams of alcohol, which is like a standard beer or a glass of wine, can actually increase your estrogen cancer risk by 4 to 13%. So like breast cancer, for example. And this is because of that conversion of testosterone to estrogen. So because like usually people will be on estrogen blocking medication if they have estrogen positive cancers in their family or are breast cancer survivors and stuff like that, drinking alcohol will actually raise your estrogen levels. So it's just something to be aware of. It can also potentially increase tumor growth. Again, take this with a grain of salt. Like there are studies and stuff out there, but I don't want you to freak out over this. But it is just something to like think about. So if it is something that runs in your family and you are aware of, sometimes like just limiting your alcohol can be a really good way to avoid this or potential risk again. And as well, supplementing with folate and vitamin B complex can help a bit because it helps with detox pathways as well. That is just something little that I wanted to touch on for you. The next one is mood. This one is actually pretty crazy. So the more often you drink, the more your brain's neural circuits get rewired and reinforced. So it will actually start to make you more impulsive and habitual because those are the areas of the brain that it reinforces when you are drinking. And it doesn't happen just when you're drinking. It'll actually start to reinforce that all the time. So that's just how your brain starts to like want to work because those neural pathways are always getting stimulated. And so it can actually make you more like impulsive when you aren't drinking. This can be reversed in like 2 to 6 months of limiting or removing alcohol, but the more you drink, the longer it will take. It will also decrease your mood when you're not drinking due to a reduction in serotonin and dopamine, your happy hormones. So it can actually lead to like more depressive type symptoms when you're not drinking. So again, just something to be aware of. This is more to do with people who drink a little bit more, but it still affects like the way your rewiring works in your brain and things like that. So again, just something to think of. The next one is gut health. This one is huge. The gut, liver, brain axis. When you drink alcohol, because it is toxic, like it is a toxin to our body, it will actually disrupt your gut microbiome. It kills the good bacteria and affects the lining of our guts, which can lead to leaky gut, and then bad bacteria can leak out and affect our bodies in a negative way. You'll have inflammation, more food sensitivities, more bloating, digestion issues, stuff like that. And I don't know about you guys, but when you're feeling bloated or constipated or have the runs, you don't feel good. And you're not in a good mood. You might start to comfort eat, like you don't go out and want to go do things. It's just not great. So ways that you can try and combat this are to have fermented foods and probiotic foods like yogurt, but try to make sure it's lower sugar if you can. And just things like that to help replenish your gut microbiome because it can really negatively affect your gut. And again, like gut health is just such a huge issue. And with like inflammation and stuff like that, that's just something we really want to avoid. Which leads me to my next point, inflammation. Because of the effects that alcohol has on the gut, the leaky gut alone is going to increase inflammatory levels in your body. And this is not good because as we go through menopause, this is something that's already happening when our estrogen levels start to decrease because estrogen is an anti-inflammatory type hormone in our body. And as those levels start to decrease, we are going to see that our body can't combat inflammation as easily. So it takes a lot less for our bodies to get inflamed. So we have to be a little bit more proactive about it. So alcohol is really just going to double up on that for you. You're naturally going to have more elevated levels of inflammation in your body. And then alcohol is just going to increase that even further. So, and then when inflammation goes up, we know that immunity starts to go down. So you're going to be more likely to catch colds, get sick easier. It takes you longer to recover. You might notice in like workouts and stuff as well. So like this is something to really be aware of, especially if you're someone who struggles with like inflammatory issues, has chronic conditions that lead to inflammation. Alcohol is likely not your friend. So it is just going to make it a double whammy. And then you're fighting an uphill battle. You can try and like fix other things in your diet and stuff like that. But as long as you're consuming alcohol on a semi-regular basis, this is going to probably be an issue for you long-term. And then my favorite topic is cortisol. You guys know that I love talking about cortisol so much. So we have this thing called the HPA axis. And basically it just dictates to your body what it perceives as stress, which is literally everything. Our bodies like will perceive stress as like financial stress, psychological stress, relationships, rushing out the door, always go, work stress, deadlines, exercise is a stress, not eating enough is a stress, not eating enough carbohydrates is a straight stress, inflammatory levels is a stress, getting sick is a stress, there's not enough sleep is a stress. So there's all these things. So it's stress. And I'm sure I listed off a ton of those things and you're like, oh my gosh, that's me in every single category. That's okay. We can deal with it. We can combat this. We've talked about it lots. There's tons of things that you can do. So we already know how freaking annoying and like how much of a struggle it is to deal with like these high stressors. And unfortunately, when estrogen goes down, our stress tolerance decreases. So let's say you used to be like, you could handle a 9 out of 10 before like cortisol really increased and you started seeing negative side effects where it started affecting your sleep and you have inflammation and gut health issues and all that stuff. Now you might be down to a 5. So it takes a lot less stress to elicit that stress response, which is going to cause issues in your body and hormones and inflammation and like metabolism and fat storage and all these things. So our body can handle a lot less. But then, so we think about that. Menopause already lowers our stress tolerance. But then just having 3 to 4 drinks in a week will increase your resting levels of cortisol as well. So again, we already have this issue. So now now we have alcohol is like increasing. So now like if we were perfect and there was no stress, we'd be at a 0. If you're consuming alcohol on a regular basis, now your resting level is just always at a 3. So now you only have a 3 to a 5 to stimulate to get that stress response. So it's really important to be aware of that as we're going through this, as we're going through perimenopause, our stress tolerance decreases. Alcohol is going to increase stress. We already can't handle a lot of stress. So then we're going to have all these negative side effects that occur. And then also just another double whammy for you is that when cortisol is high, our body produces less progesterone because the precursor that we need in order to build progesterone will actually get snatched up by the body when cortisol levels are high. So then you're already dealing with low progesterone during perimenopause and menopause. Alcohol is going to cause even less progesterone production. And when progesterone is low, we see more fluid retention, more belly fat accumulation. And typically if progesterone drops really quickly, we see that sudden excessive weight gain. That's typically where that comes from. We're going to see an increase in insulin resistance as well. So if you're already stressed, you're drinking regularly, you're under eating, you're over exercising, you're not sleeping enough, you got regular stressors in your life, there's no wonder why you're struggling with weight loss. It actually will force you into a fat storing mode. Then you feel like absolute crap. And that can even lead to things like hypothyroidism and adrenal fatigue, which we do not want. So I hope all of that made a ton of sense. I don't want you to feel like you have to give up alcohol, but it may be something worth considering. Like I personally would rather have a donut than have alcohol. And yes, they're both maybe not quote unquote healthy for you, but I know that the donut isn't going to cause the cortisol levels, the estrogen changes, the gut health issues to the same extent that alcohol will. And I personally rather eat my calories than drink my calories. That's just how I am. But again, it's completely individualized and what you prefer. So just to make a summary, we know that as little as 3 to 4 drinks a week, you're going to see an increase in fluid retention for 2 to 4 days after you drink. Your hormone levels are going to change and that testosterone converts to estrogen, which leads to estrogen dominance, which is going to lead to fat storage, PMS symptoms, decreased sex drive, bloating, weight loss resistance, and night sweats. We know that sleep quality is going to be reduced, which is going to elevate our cortisol levels and lower our growth hormone, which makes it a lot harder for us to build and maintain muscle mass, as well as going to mess with our insulin sensitivity. So we're going to become more insulin resistant. It kills the good bacteria in our gut, which leads to leaky gut. And then as well as that's going to lead to inflammation, which alone makes it our body want to go into fat storing mode. So that's, again, something that we really need to be aware of, especially since that's already occurring during perimenopause and menopause. So it's a double whammy to that. And then cortisol. We know cortisol levels are going to be higher at resting when you are going through perimenopause and menopause, and alcohol is going to increase that even more, which is going to, again, lead to fluid retention, belly fat accumulation, insulin resistance, all those things. And especially if you're already eating less, over-exercising, not sleeping enough, cutting out your carbs, you're drinking a ton, you're stressed with like life and rushing around and go, that's going to lead to belly fat accumulation. So there's a lot of things here to like consider and to think about. Again, I'm not telling you not to drink. I probably have a drink maybe once a month, maybe twice a month max. But like, I don't feel like I'm being deprived because I'm still enjoying foods. I'm still going out with friends. In fact, like I made a change a bit in a particular friend group because of this, because I found like when I was around them, I was drinking a ton and I'd feel like garbage the next day and I'd have a headache and I'd be dehydrated. And then it was affecting my ability to lose weight. And I wasn't happy with like my gym performance and the way my body looked and how I was feeling. And now I'm around a group of friends that like, they all have drinks when we go out for supper and I just don't have one. And no one really cares. Someone's like, do you not drink stuff? And I was like, I'd like drink every once in a while. But like for me, it's just, it doesn't give me much. Like I would much rather have an extra serving of pasta than have alcohol. So it's just really coming down to what your goals are, what's more important to you. I know like when I was a bit younger and going to like parties and stuff, if people were drinking and they would give me a hard time, I would just take like a Yeti container. No one can see what's in it. And I would just fill it with like water or whatever. Like no one's going to know. Like it really doesn't matter. And honestly, if like people are like telling you you're not fun because you're not drinking, probably not the best crowd to be around. That being said, I hope you found this super helpful. I hope you enjoy your summer. I will definitely be enjoying some sangria outside by the pool every once in a while as well. And then if you have any comments, questions, concerns, you know where to find me. Head to the show notes. And if you need help figuring out your macros, your calories, where you should be, message me. I answer every single message and I'm always happy to help you figure out where you should be starting. Have a great day.